So like hiking, biking, kayaking. And so like Asheville's like a mecca for that kind of stuff. And like I'd always wanted to go to Asheville because I just always wanted to be there. And it turned out to be true. Like that place is incredible.
Yeah.
Like I can't recommend that enough. And it's so like that was a summer where like worked out there, and that was a huge, like that place would do 800 people for lunch and like 1,200 people for dinner. And like that's a whole new style.
Yeah,
they actually
exactly.
like what was cool is like they had a wood-fired oven in there, and like so like that was my first foray into wood-fire cooking was at this place. And it was just like, oh, so if you don't put wood in the grill, in the oven, that shit matters.
Yeah.
It's like I had no idea.
Yeah,
It's like all my pizzas like never rose, and like, it'd just be like fucking flatbreads, and it would just be like, it was just, you know, it's like, oh, so like not just like putting food together, putting something. It's like I like
the realization.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, oh, there's like you can do more.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? It was like the first time I learned how to make pan sauces. Like doing a half chicken in the oven, taking it out, making a pan sauce out of that was just like mind blowing to me. And like as a 19-year-old, it was just like that shit was just like, what?
Yeah.
And it's so good. And it's like that it tastes good. It's just like, you know, it's like comfy garlic, oven roasted, like wood fire roasted chicken and sauce. And it was like,
what's not to love?
It's
That's all you
perfect.
need.
And like bitter greens that like they had the farm on the premise where they would get like the farm on the premise was not necessarily for all the restaurants, but we would get some of their shit.
Yeah.
And it would just be cool.
Yeah.
It was just like that was like the coolest thing to me. And that really like just like the wood fired, it was just like there's no flavor that can ever be recreated otherwise. And so went from there, and from there went to what is it after that? I'm trying to think which restaurant came first.
Now, how are you making these decisions to move from restaurant to restaurant? Are you looking for the food, or are you like, I want to live in this place, I'm going to go work there?
I think this is like one of the times when I'm all for college because it made me have to do these things. So like externships and like these kind of situations where I would have probably never done that necessarily or not that soon. Because like there's part of me that wanted to do, what's the word that's take a year off between college and high school.
Like the break or whatever?
There's a word for it, but it's like I wanted to do that. I wanted to like, you know, hike the Appalachian Trail.
Sabbatical? Is that what it is?
Yeah, something like that. There's a word for like, it's like a leap year or something like that. But like I wanted to do that, like hike the Appalachian Trail or to like kayak a bunch or like go to Australia and kayak there kind of a thing. And so like there was like the frontal lobe was nowhere near developed at that point. So going into college and them forcing you to be like, okay, you need to do a co-op, and like one of the options was doing them at the schools is like absolutely fucking
absolutely
not. Like I'm not going to go work in a cafeteria. Unfortunately, I'd known what it's like to work in a cafeteria, and it's like I'm not doing that. And there's nothing against that. It's just like I knew that's not what I wanted. And so we went to like, and so that's what it was. It was just going to school, like saying you have to go do these things. And I wasn't. And once I left Pennsylvania, being in a small town, once you know you can live outside of that town, I didn't want to go back.
Yeah, you never want to go back.
No. And like knowing how much I didn't like working at the newspaper, sorry, Mom and Dad, I knew I didn't want to do that. There was nothing for me back home. And like it's also like my first year is the first year somebody put the French Laundry cookbook in my hands.
Yeah.
And like that was just like,
holy shit.
I think everyone has that moment when they come to reading the French Laundry cookbook.
Exactly.
Everyone has that moment where it's just like I looked at it and it was just like,
this is different. This is like
yeah, and like I guess like coming from Pennsylvania and the small town, like there was like I had no idea that there was waiting lists a mile long to be able to get a stage in there. I had no idea what stages were, so it's just like started sending out resumes. Obviously didn't hear back from the laundry. Actually, eventually I did, which was them saying no. And I kept that letter. I still have that letter.
Good. It's motivation. Like
exactly.
Yeah.
And like they were like couldn't have been cool. Like I don't know of any other place that sends a rejection letter for a stage.
Exactly. I mean, that's wild.
It's kind of crazy. I don't know if they do it anymore, but it was like that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But that was like my first foray into like seeing that and like seeing like okay, there's way more out there. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously, you're saying that now. You obviously know with the internet, but there was no like food blogs were rare.
Yeah.
Like there was maybe one, and I didn't know about them.
And they weren't respected either. They're like,
no,
this guy.
It's like there was no like central area to put pictures up of people's food. So like books were like where you got those, and so like. But then shit's expensive.
Exactly.
Like
if you don't have a book, you didn't know who the fuck you were.
Exactly. It's like that French Laundry book. It's like I had to ask my parents to pay for that because it was like $50-$60 at the time, and it was just like, oh man. So like to be like, it's not like now where you can like you like are born with an iPhone, and have Instagram. And it's not like you can just like look at the geotag for that like you could.
Yeah, that's where they're delivering babies now at the Verizon store. Just tag you.
The combination Taco Bell.
That's it. I've seen that. There was this pharmacy in the town of Meriden, Connecticut, and it used to be a long-standing pharmacy, but it always opened and closed. I think they finally got it. They put a Domino's pizza in the pharmacy. So I think that they've figured out the business model that will keep the doors open.
I love the combination places. I love it. Like combination
pizza and Chinese food. That's the best one I've seen.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, that was half and half. This one place, and it'd be like pizza boxes on one side and woks and shit on the other side. It was fucking. I was like, you guys are awesome.
There's a restaurant in North Providence that does that, where it's like this Thai couple. The name's escaping me right now, but it's a Thai couple that bought a pizza place.
Yeah,
they do Thai food, but also still do pizza, and they're just purely talented where their pizzas are fucking great. Yeah. So you get like spiciest Thai food, and then you also have to order a pizza at the same time. So it's like that's cool. Like I love that shit, and like I don't know that like that's one of the trippiest restaurants in Rhode Island.
I mean, good pizza's hard to find, and the way you mention it, they probably make pizza better than pizza places.
Well, I think there's a from scratch mentality that they have that's just like translates into pizza, which is like cool. Where were we?
We're finding the restaurant you went to after your intern.
Oh, it's at Biltmore, and then Biltmore I did a stint as a assistant personal chef.
Which Biltmore?
What do you mean?
Which Biltmore?
Not the one here.
Okay.
The one which isn't the Biltmore anymore.
What?
No, it's Graduate Hotels.
That was the original Biltmore, no?
Well, there's no like original. It's like that was the Biltmore Hotel.
Okay.
Whereas the Biltmore Estate, I don't think they could. I mean, it could be like Rockefeller or something. Yeah. Just like there's lineage.
All right.
But they're not related business wise.
Okay. Gotcha.
So the Biltmore Estate, it was that was in Asheville. The Biltmore Hotel here is now the Graduate Hotel, but they kept the sign because it's iconic.
Yeah.
And so from there, I got offered a job to work as a personal assistant for. I'm not going to say his name because the dude made me want to quit cooking.
Yeah, for sure.
And it also was my only foray into personal chefing with billionaires. And there was two. It was a couple. One was a billionaire. One was a self-made billionaire.
Yeah.
One was a heiress billionaire.
Got you.
And like we could go into the shit that I would have to do for these people, and then also on top of having to work with a tyrant. This guy was, he was a executive sous for Alain Ducasse.
Yeah,
and it was also the first chef I ever had that would burn you.
Yeah.
And he would do dumb shit where I'm you're so young and you're so stupid eager.
Yeah.
That you'll be willing to get in somebody's personal space if you're watching them cook something. It's the first time I ever saw them cook rougette, the little fish, for a bouillabaisse. And it's the first time I've ever seen that. I've never seen that fish before. It's the first time I've ever saw caviar. We brought in Iranian caviar to serve Dick Cheney, which is, was kind of funny. And, it was, kind of funny.
Yeah,
and
definitely funny.
That was also, during that time was a month before he shot that guy in the face.
Oh, wow.
And he was doing the same kind of hunting.
Gotcha.
At where I was. It was just in Colorado.
He was just getting ready to go to jail because he knew he was going to shoot that guy. He's eating at all the great restaurants. You know what I mean?
Well, Dick Cheney will never forget when he shot that guy apologized to him.
What? For standing in the way?
Yes. So the way they hunt and how billionaires hunt is some poor soul has to hold the birds and wait for these guys to get within 5 feet, and then they kind of throw the bird up. So these guys just have essentially these 12-gauge shotguns that are just kind of with their fingers always on the trigger, just kind of at their hip. And so if a bird goes up, they'll just shoot. And it's a bird or a human, whatever's there first kind of a thing. There's such a, It was my first foray into that. It was just kind of like to know that that's how they do it, and like they also
gangster, bro.
They fed like the ponds or fed the streams, so that way all of the fish 10 miles along on this stream would stay in this one area, and so like fishing there was like shooting fish in a barrel.
I'd say that dude is probably the Vladimir Putin of America. I can't give it to Trump because he doesn't work out or do Brazilian jiu-jitsu and ride tigers, but you know what I mean? But I don't put it past Dick Cheney to have done any of that.
Cheney has more hearts than any of us could ever have. So
love that.
But it was like, that chef was just awful. And he was like, it's everything you read about. And as far as like when you're starting to get into like how hard it is to work in kitchens.
Yeah.
And like, you know, at the time, like I thought hard meant like manual labor, like hours and like lifting and cleaning and cutting and burning yourself. But like it was my first time having hard be from a person.
Yeah, like mental abuse.
And this is, I think I was 20 when this was happening, and so it was like the first time, like, you know, like to go back to like when he was cooking. And like I would just lean on counters just to be able to see, because like we're cooking in somebody's home kitchen, so it's not like it's a kitchen line where like visibility is a little bit better. Like this, I'm like having a look, and then like he just like puts the fish spatula on my hand because I'm leaning. It's like well, I could like either you want me to watch this or you want me to go back to cleaning dishes from Louis the 14th, which I broke one, but I put it back together, and it was one.
Fuck it,
that's a whole thing. That's a whole bad thing. And like, so like that was like the first time I had ever witnessed and been a part of that. And it was just kind of like, why would I want to do this? And that was too much. And like, I lasted a month out there. I ended up getting let go because I wasn't somebody that the chef could, harass because I was a male.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
He wanted somebody that he could control and be misogynistic.
Plus you're fucking 6. How tall are you?
6'6".
Yeah.
And I wasn't somebody that would like was eye candy for him. And he wanted, and lo and behold, it ended up being some poor woman taking that job after me. It was just kind of like, I can't imagine with that. And like, so anyway, he's an asshole. He ended up getting taking over a chef job in New York City and got 0 stars from the Times, which was like, I felt like that was my karma.
That was your
I was just like, okay, I'm now over this guy.
Yeah, love that.
And I think he got them after we got our review here from Wells, and it was just kind of like, cool. It's like I can put that trauma behind me. I can put that all behind me, which is like super great.
Love that.
And so then after that was working at a place called Gottlieb's in Georgia. My sister was going to Savannah College of Art and Design in Georgia, and she had I'd go down there to visit her while she was in college, and we'd go out to eat, and we ended up working at this place called Gottlieb's, and which was like one of the coolest restaurants I've ever been to. It was like at the time, because like the Gottlieb brothers were all guys who came from the Inn at Little Washington.
Yeah.
And like once I looked into that, I was like, fuck, that's Inn at Little Washington's the French Laundry of the East Coast. And you know, that was it. Like there was Jean-Louis Paladin. There was Patrick O'Connell, like same thing. Like it's like there was like we had that here.
Yeah.
And these guys they worked there for 8 years. He was his executive sous, and then I think his CDC possibly for a little while. And it was just like, so like that food was what we were learning there, but it was more Southern. It was more like Inn at Little Washington meets a steakhouse.
Yeah.
Which was like cool. So
like
like first place where they had a steam kettle where we would learn how to make a remoulade to make stock, and then like the stock bones were boiled, and that was our water for the next stock, and like that kind of shit. That was such a backbone to sauce
just
making.
Getting fucking everything out of it.
It was insane. It was so cool.
Yeah.
And like learning what confit was, learning how to cook short ribs, learning how to, you know, like they had a big grill, and they had no fryers. They just pan fried everything in clarified butter.
Yeah.
Which is just kind of like, so they would have like a schnitzel on there or something like that. And it was like a 32-ounce veal schnitzel that was like size of a plate, but like they did it in clarified butter.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's the first place I learned what an amuse-bouche was, because everyone started their meal with it's funny now, it's like how gluttonous it is, but it's like a cream biscuit with pickled fried chicken and oyster mushroom gravy, and like everyone started with that. And there's also a place that had that's a
hard starter, baby.
Oh, yeah.
That is like good. You're fucking eating today.
Yeah, I mean, it's also one of those things that, like, I don't know. You have to make double the amount of biscuits because how many burn in the
Oh,
salamander.
for sure. It's fucking terrible. I